What it is, what it do, you tune into the Jose Morales podcast. I'm your host, Jose Morales, and I'm back in the ring with episode 13. And this week, we're gonna be talking about the male influence, the fathers, all the dads out there, and what it is to be raised without a dad, feeling unloved, and the importance of having that positive male role model at home. This is going to be a great episode for everybody, not just those that are raised by single mothers, not just the single mothers, the fathers, but even if you are not any of those, maybe you have someone that is or something. Trust me, you want to stick to it and listen to this one. It's going to be good. I'm actually going to share also a lot of personal stuffs that, to be honest, makes this episode a little bit harder to talk about. Just to bring it up and to be real, I'm going to be 100% real with you. This is the second time I recorded this. First time I recorded it, it killed my fucking mood. I couldn't talk about it. I was a little depressed. Scott was like, hey, it's good. But I was fucking down. I was feeling down. I didn't like it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to put this episode out like that and have everyone listen to it and get all depressed and not feel good about it. So this is where take two comes in. And this is where I want you to understand how it is to be in that situation and know how to deal with it, and also how to be a friend with somebody that is in this situation. Before I get into that, I'm gonna give you updates about the gym, everything that's going on, and how this episode even came about. A guy came in, I'm gonna call him Luigi. Luigi came in, and Luigi is driving from Galt to here to be a part of this gym. He boxed at a gym in Galt. He checked out of various different gyms. He boxed as a kid. He was a troubled youth, and he wanted to be here. And when he came here, he couldn't. He said he couldn't afford it. So I like to get to know people first, kind of get where their heart's at, what their goals are, why they want to be here before I just start giving away stuff for free. Because I want to make sure you're gonna appreciate it. So I set this meeting up, and I'm talking to him. And he started giving me his history of how everything's going on. And he mentioned how he feels like he never had a positive male role model in his life. And not even a positive male, just a male role model. First, his older brother is homosexual, he's gay. His father is deaf. So he said he had a really hard time just really connecting with him. He said he could talk to him, he just couldn't connect with him. And when he said this to me, as he's telling me all this, for some reason, it felt like deja vu, like I was living through all the pain that I had as a kid. And now I was feeling it when he was telling me this. Because as he was telling me this, his eyes just showed pain. Just by looking at him, it showed that he really still carried this pain with him. So we're talking, and he mentioned that as a teenager, he boxed, but then he was troubled. He got into gangs. He came back as an adult. Things were quite the same. And he's just struggling with finding himself. And that's why he wanted to be a part of this gym. He's like, I saw on Instagram, I saw videos of you. I saw how you are. And honestly, I needed to be a part of this. I wanted to heal. And the only way I was going to heal is by being with someone that was going to help me, but been there and understands the process to get me healed and finding myself. And he said, I feel like that person's you, Jose. And again, I just hearing these things, it made me just appreciate that. I was for sure ready to help this guy, and I wanted to be there. And then that's where that wanting to make this podcast grew. You know, I was like, honestly, I didn't really want to make this podcast because of the things I have to talk about, but I wanted to make it because of people I can reach and help with this podcast. And Luigi motivated me to it. And thanks to Luigi, I'm gonna make this podcast happen. And that is why this podcast is here for you to enjoy this week. First, before anything, I wanted to say something. I feel like the court system in the world, everything makes, or at least maybe it's not true, but they make it seem like fathers are secondhand citizens. Like a child really doesn't need their father, or everything's mother way, the mother's way, the mother, a baby can't survive without his mother. And honestly, the baby, to raise a man or a woman, a grown woman, strong, independent woman, or a strong man, you need both. You don't just need your mother. You don't just need your father. You need both. You learn things from your mother that you're not going to learn from your father. And you can learn things from your father that you're not going to learn from your mother. And I'm going to share with you my story of how it was with me. And before anything, I was raised by a single mother, as you guys know. My mother worked all the time. I did not see her in my young age until I started working as a teenager. Is literally when I started seeing my mother more because she worked less. But prior to me working, she was working all the fucking time. And I'll give her props to that because she wanted to provide the best life for me. So she bust her ass because she could have worked a little less and probably been at home with me maybe a little bit more, but she wasn't gonna have the quality of life that she provided for me. She always made sure I had a house. She took care of me. And that's thanks to my mother. I was always alone. I always felt alone. I have a sister who is 6 years and a half, about 7 years older than me. And when I was a kid, for example, when I was 6, she was 12, 13 years old. She didn't quite, and I get it. At the time now, I look back at it, I'm kind of like, damn, my sister was a bitch. Like, the fuck, I hated my sister. And as a kid, I hated my sister. But as I got older and I understood things, like now I look back, my sister was a kid. And my mother put her responsible for me. She was responsible to watch over me. She was responsible to feed me, to take care of me 7 days a week as if she was my mother. So imagine being 12, 13 years old, having to take care of your little brother. And not only is your little brother annoying, but this motherfucker has a hella energy. And that's who I was. I had a shit ton of energy. I was always running up and down the house, jumping everywhere. I love fighting. I love wrestling. So I was fucking doing the people's elbow to her when she was sitting on the couch. I was jumping around. I was just a very hyper kid. And what this would cause a lot of tension between my sister and I, because she would yell at me. I didn't listen. So then what would happen? She'll fucking hit me. And now we're full on brawling, going to town on each other, beating the fuck out of each other with no adults to be found. And that's how I end up with scars on my head. And that's how you end up in the ER. And with these things going on, now I can say you're laughing and cracking up. But at the time, I just wanted affection. You know what I mean? I was running around because, one, I needed somebody to play with. I needed someone to pay some sort of attention to me. My sister was being a teenager, so she was doing her nails, she was doing her hair, she was trying to live her life and what is for a teenager to be, a female teenager. And me, I was trying to play. I was a little boy, I was trying to play. And then getting put in like, just go stay where your aunt because she's gonna watch you guys this weekend. Go to this, go to that. Being at Christmas, or holidays with other families they're my family, but they're my extended family, they're my cousins. And I'm sitting there during Christmas and people are opening presents and looking at a gift that says Jose, but it's for a different Jose. And just getting all teary-eyed and just getting all sad and feeling like, and the way people look at me, like people always looked at me as a kid. And for some reason I can feel this like it was yesterday of how people looked at me. And people looked at me as, stay away from him, or you don't want to be with him. So I always subconsciously in my head, I just always felt unwanted. I don't know if that's how it was for real, but that's how I felt. I felt unloved. I felt empty. I felt very lonely. And I just remember as a kid too, a very fucking clear memory that I will never forget that I would constantly do is I would, after fighting with my sister, getting my ass fucking beat, I would go to my room I would grab a picture of my mom. I would grab a shirt or something that my mom wore, and I would hug that. That was as close as I would get to my mom. And smelling her and looking at her through a picture and through a shirt, it was kind of my way to kind of feel as if my mother was hugging me. And as I got older, that void stayed there. I hated my father for not being a part of my life. I felt that everything that I lived through, being at other people's houses and stuff like that, it was his fault. I felt that, um, everything that it could have been different if he was there. Maybe not, maybe yes, I don't know. But I blamed him, and then I blamed him for not being able to see my mother because now she had to work to make up for him. And this is where it becomes dangerous. This is where it becomes dangerous because when you have a kid that was raised like this and now he is becoming a teenager, and I know for a fact I'm not the only one that's dealt like this or is raised like that or is living like that. I guarantee you there's more that live this way. But now when you're being raised, now you're a teenager and you're going through this, you become very vulnerable, super, super vulnerable. Anything that seems cool, or any guys, any group of settings, any sort of protection, any sort of anything, you tend to follow or be a part of just because you want to be a part of something. Years and years of not being or not having anything, to have one friend or two friends or three friends or group of friends, you would do anything to have that because that's something you were missing. For a long period of my time, I remember as a teenager, for some reason, big families always seemed cool to me. Having brothers always seemed cool to me. Having a brother was probably one of the things I wanted the most. I think I wanted a brother more than I wanted a dad, to be real. I really, really wanted a brother. And the reason why this is dangerous to this time, because if the wrong person would have been a part of my life, what if I had a gang member, a thief, a criminal, whatever, some sort of person that could have used me to commit crimes or do things, I probably would have done it just to have his blessings and just to be a part of it. In my case, I got lucky though. God blessed me with a brother. And the brother he blessed me with was my sister's then boyfriend, now husband, Andres. Andres Quintanilla came into my life when I believe I was 14. No, I was like 12, 13 years old. No, I was like 12 years old. My sister left my house. She left the house when she was 14 to live with Andres. And so from 7 years old up, I was alone. So that means I was running I was running the bus alone. I was running the light rail. I was on the light rail alone. I was going from north to south Sac alone, 8 years old on the light rail. Just to get to my cousin's house or just to go to boxing or just to do this or whatever. I was alone. And when Andres came to my life, I don't know what created that attachment for him with me. I look back now and I feel like because he was in a similar situation where his father was not a part of his life, maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. I can't really speak for why he was like this, but he became very involved in my life. It started with playing basketball with me at the park to putting me on my first basketball team. I would have never played sports if it wasn't for Andres. He put me in basketball and he would always give me gear, nice shoes, nice everything. He was just, he would always make sure I was looking good for basketball. And then he eventually got me into wrestling. He talked wrestling up. I got into wrestling. He talked boxing up, got me into boxing. I still remember where we were eating at and where I was sitting when boxing came up and we made it happen. We were eating at Old Spaghetti Factory. We were trying to figure out how the fuck we were gonna pay for boxing. And then second, how the hell are we gonna get Jose to boxing? And together as a family, we came up with that plan. And together, I was like, I'll find my way there because I really wanted to be there. But none of that would have been possible. None of this would have been possible. And none of these conversations I'm having on this podcast would be possible if it wasn't for Andres. And I remember what really sold me about boxing. Andres really, for some reason, you would think you would sell like being a world champion and fighting on HBO and all this. But Andres really kept bringing up the Olympics to me. He talked about De La Hoya winning a gold medal for his mother that passed away. And he just talked about how badass it is to be on a world stage representing your country. And that right there was my light bulb. That was why I dedicated 100% of my day, my life to boxing. To Andres, thanks to Andres for having that conversation and planting that seed in me. And that's where the positive male role model kind of began with him. Yes, he got me into sports, but what else did Andres do for me? The conversations we had. So on our way to go play basketball or on the way to go shop for me, we would go to Ross. And it was funny because I remember my sister would be working and then she's like, what are you guys doing? And fucking we're at Ross and guess who's fucking buying me clothes? Andres is buying me clothes. She's like, why are you spending so much fucking money on him? Leave him alone, da 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 da. But on our way to Ross and all that, it created this bond, that brotherly bond. Like I would dress like him. I wanted to be like him. I said things like him. If I had my basketball moves, I wanted to do it like him, anything like him. And we started having these conversations about becoming a man. You know, I remember there was this dude when I was, how old was I? I think I was like 8 years old, 9 years old, around there, 8, 9 years old. And there was this kid that would always look at me a certain way, but he would always do it with a group of people. And I was always intimidated because it wasn't just him. It was like him and 10 other dudes. I'm like, damn, if I say anything, I'm about to get jumped by him and 10 other dudes. And and him talking to me and creating that bond with me, he kind of helped me open up to this. I would have never brought this story up to him, or I never would even brought up this kid to him if it wasn't for him creating that bond with me, taking me to the Ross and we're talking da-da-da, da-da-da, and this and that. And then I told him, look, there's this fucking kid. And then he was like, I remember we were driving and he's completely stopped the car. He was like, hold up. He's like, Jose, next time you see this motherfucker, you better call his ass out, push his ass or something. And then he explained to me why it was important. He said, if you don't do this now, you're gonna live with this forever. And then you're gonna create this habit of letting people walk all over you forever. This is part of being a man. He said, in your case, in our case, not having a father, becoming a man is not at 18 years old. Becoming a man may be at 8 years old for you. So it's time for you to speak up. No one else is gonna speak up for you. And it resonated, it stayed in my head. And it was months after because this kid and we didn't go to the same school. It was like a neighborhood thing where I was at. So it's not like I saw him at school or anything like that. And he was older than me too, because I think he was like, if I had to guess, he was like 4 years older than me. So he was like 12 years old. I was like 8 years old. He was probably in middle school. I was still in fucking elementary. And I was at the bus stop one time, the public bus, not the fucking yellow bus. I was getting ready to go somewhere. And as I was sitting in the public bus, he's riding his skateboard and he's smashing down and I see him from a distance. And as he's looking at me, I lock eyes with him. I'm like this. And then I just can't remember what Andres told me. I'm like, this is my fucking chance. If I'm ever going to say something, speak the fuck up now. You know, that's what I was thinking. I'm already getting pumped up. I can't wait till he gets close to me. Soon as he gets close to me, he looks at me and he actually got off his skateboard and he's holding his skateboard and he starts walking towards me. And then I just stood there. And as I stood there, he bumped shoulders with me. Boom, we bumped shoulders. We look at each other. And then I look at him and I'm like, I don't remember the exact words, what I said to him, but I said something along the lines like, what the fuck's your problem? And he was in shock. I think he was so used to mugging me and me not ever saying nothing. The fact that I spoke up and my little pumping up to a fucking dude that's 3, 4 years older than me and not giving a fuck shocked him. After that, he shook my hand. He tried to act like we were homies. I was in shock. But that's right there is what I mean by a positive male role model. Andres spoke up. Andres communicated to me what I needed to do to become a man. And I'm not saying go around and bump people and fucking push each other, but you know damn well you need this to be a man. Because this is the beginning stages of you growing as a father. Because when you start raising your family and someone says something to your family and you are so used to not saying nothing, You're never gonna speak up for your kids, for your wife. Or what if someone's punking your kid? How are you gonna communicate this to your kid if you've never done it, if you've never lived it? And these are important things a kid needs, male or female. We all need this. And these are things that your mother is not gonna teach you. And this brings up, I got a message. I was mentioned that I was gonna talk about this on Instagram, and Erica sent me a message. You know what? I'm gonna actually read Erica's message. Erica said, young men need a positive male role model. Being a well-balanced man isn't easy. Same who can relate to all people, guys, girls, authoritative figures, understanding compassion, ego, and being a good human. What does all that look like? How to stand by what you believe in. And that is a good fucking statement and question she brought up, and great for this episode, because, you know, even as an adult, as I got older, there was things that I did not know how to do, or things that I think your father could have helped you with, like doing things around the house. And I'm not talking about cleaning, I'm talking about shit, something simple, I don't know, or like changing an oil on your car, your tire, changing the tire in your car. Little things like that, or anything like where it's part of a man to provide for their family in that aspect. And that's something that I lacked. It's also the ego part. Like Erica said, how do you understand egos and all this, and the communication and compassion? How do you show love? These are all things that I feel males are lacking, because we are not taught none of that. How do you deal with egos? You don't deal with egos showing off your ego and bumping up your ego and his ego and you guys going at it. That is not how you deal with ego. You deal with ego with understanding them and how they feel, and them understanding you and how you feel. But that starts with conversations. Conversations start with confrontations. Like, you have to confront them. How are you going to do that if you are afraid of confrontations? If you were never taught how to confront somebody, how are you going to do that? And these are all things, again, that your father teaches you. So if you're a single mother, make sure you have your son or daughter around positive male role models. And you may be like, oh, he has his dad at home, or he has this at home, or whatever. Having a guy at home is not necessarily a positive male role model. It could be a male influence, but is it a positive male influence? What's the difference? The difference is, one is talking to them. One is getting to know them. Remember I mentioned Andres taking me to Ross, and without him building these conversations and these with me, I would have never opened up to him. This is what you need from that male at home. Creating conversations with your kids, talking to them, spending one-on-one time, creating a relationship with them. That relationship is what's going to create the trust. With the trust is what's going to create them to open up and share things with you that they possibly wouldn't share with you. This is where I hold my dates high up. My guy Stan Zuku is the one who gave me ideas about going to dates with your kids. And he told me this a few years ago, and I've actually held them up pretty good. I do fall off track. I don't do it all the time, and I am human, and I fuck up, and I'm like, oh shit. But you know what? I gave that responsibility to my son. I told my son, if I do not take you out on a date and it's Sunday and we didn't do nothing, and you see me not doing something to be with you, remind me. Hey, Dad, it's noon. How come we haven't done our date? Hey, Dad, what are we gonna do today? Hey, Dad, tomorrow's Sunday. Hey, Dad, what are we gonna do this week? Blah, blah, blah. Talk to your kid. There's nothing wrong with your kid holding you accountable. Nothing wrong with that. That just shows that you're not putting yourself in a pedestal. It's not dad's way and your kid's way. It's your guys' relationship being completely equal both ways. And for all the adults out there, you know, these are all having a male, positive male role model or influence. Not, I'm gonna call them role model, influence, even role model, whatever you wanna call them. It's good regardless if you're a little kid or you're a teenager, even as you get older. Even if you're in your 30s, 40 years old, having someone there that can guide you or talk to you in a good way and give you good advice from a male's perspective. You know, that's always good to have. Just like it would be to have a good female perspective that tells you, oh, you know, your wife's probably dealing with this right now. and you quite not understanding, you definitely not understanding because you two are fighting right now at home and you're hearing it because you don't want to hear it and you don't want to listen and you don't want to understand it. Sometimes hearing it from a friend or someone you respect, admire, would come out different. Quick recap. A male influence in a boy's life helps turn that boy into a man. Things that are gonna happen to that boy, that male is gonna help them, guide him into turning him into that man we all want for our families, in our communities. Shout out to Andres Quintanilla, man. Thank you, brother, for everything you've done for me. I hope that your kids, Mia, Isaac, Andrea, my kids, Alonso and Valentin, know the history, know the story, know how much you really mean and what big role you played in this. My sister, Mana Viridiana, thank you for bringing Andres to me. Thank you for all this. You guys completely saved my life. So this episode is for you guys. I love you guys to fucking death. Thank you so much. There's no words I can ever say or do to pay you back to what you guys did to save me. So thank you. And last but not least, hope you guys have a great Monday. But before you do that, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. You know, I have 0 comments on the new season. 0 comments. 0. Let me know which was your favorite episode, which one did you like the most? And if you know anyone that will gain from this, or it's just a great episode you want to share, put it on your story, tag me, share it with somebody, pass it to them, let them know, hey, you just need to listen to this. Thank me later. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you guys next week where I'm going to be talking about, you know what? I'm going to just tell you the name of the next episode. Fuck school. See you next Monday. I'm out.